Welcome back to For the Love of Gaming's online extravaganza number 3, raising money for To Write Love in Her Arms. As you can see from the mug on the screen, we've got WarioWare Get It Together, being run by the other face on the screen, the lovely and talented firesplitter. Firesplitter, the show is yours.
Hello everyone, it's firesplitter here, and today we're gonna run WarioWare Get It Together, and we first go through this first little cutscene here, that is before we start the game. Once you make a new save file, you actually have to watch this cutscene before the game starts. Normally, you can't skip it when you are playing the game like you can normally do with like openings for games. But as this is a new save file, we can't skip this, and this basically goes through the story. Wario is gonna develop a new game, but there is troubles going on, and everyone gets stuck into the game, as you can see there.
I hated when that happens.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they say colloquially getting absorbed into a game is a good thing, but I guess it is also dangerous.
Yeah, it definitely is in this case. So we gotta start now. Normally we never watch that cutscene because it's like not part of the run.
But does time start now, or does it start as soon as we start the first world?
Now. It starts when we start new first world.
Okay.
Nothing up until this point is technically part of this run. It's basically just a check I do before the run so that it's a new save file. Because if it's not a new save file, I can't skip that part, and if it is, I can't. So it's basically a check to know that we are on a new save file, which is required for the any percent route. There are categories of this game which does run on cleared save files, and those are vastly different in some different ways, which I am gonna talk a little bit about it during the run. But yeah, let's do a countdown, start the run.
Alrighty, we'll get started in... Oh yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I can. No, you can do the countdown.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
So the first difference, which we're gonna see now, is that we are getting a little bit of a cutscene with text before and after the run. We're sadly gonna have to mash through the text. The text is actually pretty entertaining, but this is a speedrun, so sadly we have to skip that. But we're gonna come to cutscenes which we thankfully can't skip, which you all are gonna get to see. That's ready for the start. And there we go. So another thing that's interesting here is that we are also having to do these practice stages. Those are not part of the non-new game runs, but there is a specific category where you actually only run those. And we're gonna get those for each character we get to as we go. But yeah, here's a cutscene.
Yep, just perfectly normal things happening in WarioWare.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is funny enough quite normal for the WarioWare universe.
Granted, they do seem to keep finding ways to take things up another notch with each game in the series.
Yeah, they do. So now we gotta do the mini games, and the big difference between this WarioWare and older WarioWare games is that this is actually letting you play as the characters. Older WarioWare games usually had you take different actor roles depending on the minigame, but here like you have different characters. And the characters are a little bit different. Wario can see flies around and does his dash that he's famous for in his platforming games. So now we're gonna get to unlock a couple of new characters. The first one is Young Cricket. And these are the characters we will mainly see throughout the run too, as these are the characters we have picked for each course. The reason for that isn't that these characters are good, it's definitely not. Even though this is a good character, but this character is not good. This is one of the worst characters in the game. Because of his mechanics. He can't move. He can only like sit there and shoot discs in different directions. It's okay, but he's like pretty weak compared to many other characters. But the
Yeah, I
reasons,
like 9
yeah,
volt and 18 volt as characters, but
yeah,
to play with, not so much.
yeah, in this game they are very, very weak, especially 9 volt. 9 volt is 9 volt is infamously weak, and thankfully we don't have to play with 9 volt. 18 volt we can play with though. But the reason why we play with these characters is because of two reasons. The first reason is because of menuing. They are the characters that are the quickest to pick in the menu. And that actually does mean quite a lot in this run, because this run is optimized to the point where even losing time to menuing is really, really bad when you are speedrunning for the world record. Which is the level I am at. So therefore I can't waste any extra time on menuing, because the run is just that optimized. The second reason is because, while those characters are not particularly good, there aren't really any minigames they are really bad at from a speedrunning sense. And what does that mean? Well, that means that in speedrunning this game, there is one thing that we are trying to do, and that is to hit during the microgame sections. And that is to hit frame rules. Yes, this game has frame. Oh, come on. I just died. That was annoying. Went up a little bit too much. It doesn't lose too much time though, but lose a little bit. It's one of the easier deaths. Where were I? You're right, I talked about frame rules. The frame rules are basically... Oh, okay. They're basically that... That's exact thing here. There are 3 points of each course where we can finish. The first point is at the halfway point of the line, and the second one is 3/4 through, and the final one is when the entire thing is done. And this is only a problem in courses that have long fuses. As you noticed when I played through this course, there were different lengths of the fuses. They could either be half full or completely full. On the next level, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that to show you what I'm talking about. And those levels with the long fuses you can like leave at halfway through, 3/4 through, or when it's fully through. And the goal in speedrunning is obviously to like always get out as soon as possible. The problem with not getting out early is that, unlike some games where you like lose a couple of frames, in WarioWare you lose about 2.5 seconds for each frame rule you miss.
Time to do this.
So it's very expensive to miss these frame rules. It's very, very expensive. So one very important thing in this run is to hit those, and Young Cricket and 18 Volt and Wario has very few courses they have a hard time to hit those frame rules on. For the most part, we gotta... There is one thing though, we have to play with the character who's... Oh, come on. The boomerang refuses to hit the bottom. That happens sometimes. Sometimes the boomerang just refuses to hit that bottom. It's the boomerang and one other attack that has that weird hitbox that sometimes refuse to hit the stuff.
What a mess!
It is a little bit random, it's kinda not random.
Let's ride!
I don't know how else to explain it. But yeah, now we get to watch Mona's cutscene. This is one of my absolute favorite cutscenes of the entire game. Because it's just so colorful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in previous games, I've always loved the Mona Pizza themes.
Yeah, yeah, Mona Pizza is a classic in the WarioWare. There are some tracks that are real classics in the WarioWare franchise. And this game has one of those too. Sadly, we won't get to it because that is part of the Unlock All Characters category. Which is post-game stuff.
Well, it sounds like you might just have to tune into Firesplitter's streams on her channel if you want to see that.
Yeah. But yeah, each WarioWare seems to have like one song that's like really strong. I know some earlier entries had like Ashley's song, and then there's the Mona Pizza
Ashley's
song.
theme is very much so.
Yeah, that one is I think that one is even in Smash, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Yep. And it was my primary 3DS theme for a long time.
Yeah, I think it was for a lot of people, honestly. Because that song is like unbelievably popular. So yeah, here we see the fuses I talked about earlier.
Watch out.
As you can see here, there is like a long fuse there, but as we finished early, see, we left the minigame. If we didn't finish it by halfway point, same here, we would have to watch it until it's 3/4, and if we didn't get it by then, we would have to watch until the very, very end. So as long as we can beat the minigame until halfway point, we don't lose or gain any time, so that's really, really nice.
Green.
And that's why we picked the characters that we picked, as I said, because some characters can beat some courses really, really fast, but they have problems with other courses. So therefore, these characters I'm picking are pretty good.
Plug it.
And the characters we can pick here are Wario and Young Cricket, but then there is gonna be... From the second overworld, we are gonna get to pick 3 characters that have 1 return terminated. Okay, please get this first frame rule. Sadly, no, so we get to see how the second frame rule looks like. That minigame is really, really difficult no matter which character we have at this point, because we haven't any of the characters that are good at that minigame yet. Each character can get the first frame rule, but the first frame rule is very difficult and very precise to get on that one.
Remove.
There is one other kind of minigame though, which I haven't talked much about, and this is where the nasty RNG element of this game is coming in. There are long fuse minigames which we can't actually beat early, and those instantly lose like around 5 seconds if we get them.
Yeah, so for those who aren't aware, each category holds a couple of times the number of games that you'd actually see while just playing through kind of the intro or the first time through the category. So,
Yeah,
like you said, it's RNG whether you see those long games.
yeah. Some courses have more long minigames than others. Okay, this one I have to focus a little bit on because this is a minigame I know I'm prone to mess up, and that is a marathon I really don't want to mess it up. So rather play it safe than being story here.
Sure.
The goal is to basically mix and match these boxes with the content there. This is like one of the nastier early splits in my opinion, because as you speedrun, it's very easy to accidentally pick the thing, because when you go for PB, you can't really sit and wait and like remember what it is. You like kind of have to know exactly when things pop up what you need. But as this is a marathon, I'd rather take it safe than sorry. I'd rather take a 5-second time loss than a 35-second time loss, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely.
Or risk getting a 35-second time loss. So yeah, now we're coming to a course where we are gonna explore a mechanic I haven't talked too much about yet, but it's related to the frame rules. On this course, we are gonna take a lot of intentional deaths, because, well, to finish a minigame, there are 2 ways to finish it. Either you win it or you lose it, and some minigames are impossible actually to get the first frame rule by winning, or very, very difficult, especially with characters we pick. But then we can opt to lose instead, as we have 4 life, and therefore we save like a lot of time. Can save up to 5 seconds each time we do it. We can't do that for boss courses, sadly. That is not allowed in this category. There is categories, however, where you are supposed or allowed to lose the boss fight, but there is not a single boss fight that's not worth losing in this game.
Let's go. Come on, hop aboard. We'll show you the stars.
So here they go. So yeah, in this world, we, as I said earlier, as I hinted earlier, we are gonna lose so many games of purpose. And like I say that because this course has a lot of minigames which is beneficial to lose on purpose.
Defeat.
And there's another thing also, and this is a little thing that's also different between the new game category and the other categories. There are actually some minigames that doesn't appear in the first playthrough. There are minigames that doesn't appear in the first playthrough.
Spin it.
So yeah, you have less options of minigames to get in a normal playthrough. On your first playthrough. That is because some minigames are more difficult than others. Okay, this one we wanna lose. I get second frame there sadly, not first. Because the pony got on us instead of in the baskets. That is very unfortunate.
Yeah. You know, on the one hand, you have to beat yourself up, and on the other hand, you
Yeah.
have to beat yourself up for not losing fast enough.
Yeah, pretty much.
Switch.
Yeah, this game is like that. Like we are gonna have a lot of minigames here. I think at most can be 3 minigames we can lose on purpose. No, there are 4. Yeah, we can lose 3, but like there are only 3 we want to lose. This one we really wanna lose. Not losing this one on purpose loses 5 seconds because we have to watch.
So I
entire
saw.
thing.
Yeah, it was only even at the halfway point.
Yeah. Otherwise, it would like have to go to the very end. And now we don't have to lose anything anymore. Beautiful. And now we're gonna come to the second hardest boss fight in this entire game, actually. And no, the hardest one was the previous one. This minigame is easy to win, but the speedrun strategy for this one is brutally difficult.
Interesting.
And it's one
Let's
of
see
the
it.
strategies I developed when I went for the record in this game. And it's a pretty difficult strategy. I hope we can get it, because it looks super cool when you get it.
Protect.
It doesn't lose too much time to not get it, but it saves like almost 10 seconds to get it. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna try to push that one up, and then we're gonna... Nope, we missed. What we wanna do there is basically to have the little kappa up there when that happens, so we can easily push it in. Thankfully we got the second fastest player there, so we didn't lose too much time. The strategy there is basically to push the kappa in there at the same time as the door opens.
Yeah, complete
It's
both
very
goals at once.
difficult. Yeah, it's very difficult. You have to juggle both things. It's one of the more difficult strats. The most difficult boss fight... I will try once to do the fast strat, but if I fail it after the first try, I will go for the safer strat, because... To say below estimate, because that strategy is very consistent. I just really want to show off the strategy if I can get it. And I do have time in estimate for once, failing it once, but... I don't want to sit and fail it like forever. It's basically the big turning point of the run. If I'm ahead after that run, the run is probably gonna be good. If not, well... It's probably not gonna be good.
Dr. Krygor.
So this course is kinda scary from an RNG perspective, because this course has a lot of the stages I talked about earlier that are forced long stages. And this is the other character with interesting hitbox as well. I mentioned earlier with Mona's boomerang that her hitbox with the boomerang is a little bit inconsistent whenever it hits buttons or not.
Let's begin.
Dr. Krygor's hitbox is a little bit different. Thankfully we did get it. It's not as annoying as with Mona though, because if Mona hits the button, we basically lose like several seconds because we have to relaunch the boomerang. Thankfully Dr. Krygor is a little bit more lenient with that.
They work.
What I really love about the WarioWare games though is just how much personality the cutscenes have. Like,
Yeah, you know,
yeah.
in a lot of games, it ends up being about the gameplay. As much as I enjoy the gameplay in most WarioWare games, it feels like, you know, these cutscenes and character introductions and stuff are kind of the reward for going through the gameplay.
Yeah, it is, and the character, like, they have so much character to them as well. Like there's so much character to them. Like they don't progress the story that much, but they are helping to highlight the characters more. The actual story is like in the cutscenes we skip, sadly, but this is the speedrun. Maybe I would submit a don't skip text run sometimes, so we read the text. Maybe having someone read the text or something like that, but this is sadly not that run.
Yeah, it would certainly be a fun incentive.
Yeah, it would be a fun incentive. But not today when we are running a little behind schedule. Regrettably. But yeah, it's something I have been thinking about because the dialogue in this game is actually really funny. So I do recommend everyone to play this game because the humor in this game is like, if you like the cutscene humor. Oh no! I land on that. I was gonna land on another place. Well, that happens. It's not a problem. We don't lose any time, and there isn't any part we are gonna want to lose an accident here. We didn't get that, sadly. There was a trick I was going for there that would have allowed me to get a first frame rule clear, but we didn't get it. This one we might want to lose on purpose. It's safer. We gotta take some safety deaths on purpose on some minigames because it's safer. As we have 3 lives to spare. There we go. That is not a free first frame rule, by the way. That is pretty difficult. Wario is the only character where that is pretty easily doable. With the other characters, that's very, very, very difficult to perform. There we go. We are pretty lucky so far, actually. I think it's like almost optimal RNG on this course.
Of course. Steady now.
But yeah, this course has a lot of forced second and third frame moves. So we can grab this one. So we're gonna make some sushi here. And in true Wario fashion, not all sushis are gonna be
Food?
okay. We got all food sushis, I think.
I think that's a sponge.
I think it was a sponge there, yeah. But yeah, not all sushis are food sushis. As
No, of course
this is
not.
WarioWare.
Not in WarioWare, right?
Yeah. There is also a phone sushi. That's my favorite sushi because that one is ringing when you have finished it. That is my favorite sushi to make.
You pick up the sushi off the conveyor belt.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it's for you.
Yeah, exactly. So here comes, I think this is gonna be chat's favorite world. And it's not my favorite world because I have to play as 9-volt. As I mentioned earlier, 9-volt is criminally bad in this game.
Ah, poor kid. He doesn't deserve this.
Yeah, he doesn't deserve this. His mechanic, as you can see here, he's going back and forward, and you can only stop by pressing A to shoot the yo-yo up. Yeah, I think you all can realize why that is bad in a platforming game, and
Yeah, and that momentum, like it resumes immediately after the yo-yoing is done, so he can be very squirrely.
yeah, he's very difficult to play, and that is... That course that we just did is the most difficult single part of the run to do well. And it's so expensive to fail it. It's the single most difficult part to do. It's not the hardest boss fight because it's not a boss fight, but it's the single most difficult thing to do. Like, you have to be very precise when you press the button when the yo-yo comes down to get to do the double shot, which are required at times. And yeah, I'm not gonna spoil the boss fight because that's gonna be hype for people to watch. It's gonna be hype to watch for people to watch me run the boss fight with the character I'm gonna have to run it with, because we have to play the boss fights with the characters whose course it is. That's also the difference between the new game category and the new game plus categories. Because in New Game Plus categories, you kind of get to pick which characters you get for the boss fights. Well, you get in one you get to pick 3 characters or 4 or 5 depending on the course, and you have to and you get one of those. And then there is the completely random one where you get random characters, but I can tell you every single character in this game is better than this character on this boss course. I don't think there's a single character who's like even remotely close to as bad as this character is on this boss course gonna come up.
Find a ghost. Hit it.
There are slower characters, but there are not characters that are more difficult. No, I don't even think that. I think even that's a lie. But yeah, this course is, as you can see, like a lot of Nintendo games. It's gonna be both old and new ones. Which is a little different from older WarioWare games, which almost only had like classic games. They start to add like newer games too, like Splatoon and things like that.
Hey, if you like this minigame, maybe you should go into the eShop.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much this minigame in a nutshell.
Create path.
But yeah, I know this, like, 9-volt course is like always a fan favorite in WarioWare, and it has like been since the beginning, and like one of the first things like that people like always hide for when there is a reveal of a new WarioWare game is which games are gonna be represented in the 9-volt course pack. In Game & Wario there was actually only one course pack, and that was 9 volts. Because they removed the traditional, like Game & Wario was a little different of a WarioWare game. It basically had like different game modes rather than different
Don't get caught.
different levels with different mini games. But it did keep 9-volt micro games. That's what they kept. They did give it a twist though, which I wasn't too fond of. And that was that you had to like stop playing when your mother
Yes.
when your mother came in.
I think they brought that mechanic back in WarioWare Gold as well.
Yeah. But that was the only way to play micro games, and you had to play it like that, if I remember correctly.
That's right, yeah. Whereas in Gold, it's an optional, like something you can buy and then play it that way.
Yeah. Which was a little bit annoying when you had to do it. But yeah, here comes the boss fight, and the boss fight is, we're gonna do a platforming level with a character that has to move forward always.
Hey look, it's another endless runner.
Yeah. And this is very difficult, and we did it first try.
Excellent.
That is very difficult, so we have to do it like right after his fall, otherwise we're gonna make another block also spin, and then we can't go down. And that loses like 5-6 seconds, so this is like a very difficult boss fight. We did it perfectly. I maybe make it look easy, but that is far from easy because this character has really terrible control. Like, it can't be stressed enough how precise the yo-yo is. It's extremely precise to press it without
it's kind of like if you ever played those crane games in an arcade.
Yeah.
You really only know if your timing was good after it happens.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. And that's really, really annoying when you're speedrunning. Especially when you're doing a trick that like loses over 5 seconds if you fail it. So yeah, now we're gonna go into the first remix one, and this is gonna be a mix of every single minigame we've seen so far.
Okay.
Well, there are some minigames that can't pop up as this is a new game playthrough. And now we unlock Mike. Mike is one of the better characters in this game. By most people, he's like considered either the second or third best character in the game. And for speedrunning, he's also good. The only reason why we don't play with Mike is, as I said earlier, because we are saving time by menuing by picking the characters we pick, but otherwise Mike will be one of the characters we pick. Mike's mechanic is that he always shoots up, which is actually really, really good.
Go time.
Cover up.
As a lot of stuff in this game is going down and up, or left to right.
Escape.
Beautiful, beautiful.
fun.
Yeah, these courses are always really scary when we are speedrunning. As I said earlier, like every minigame can be here, and that means that we can get a huge overrepresentation of minigames, which we have to wait
Right.
until the finish
Once you're
line.
down to one life, you don't have that choice anymore.
Yeah, and you also have and you can also have a representation of minigames that are forced long ones. And that can lose. I think I've lost like 30 seconds to RNG alone on these splits sometimes, and that is far more time than you can lose if we put it like that. And there are two splits like that. They can either be like really good or they can be really bad. There are some real run deciders when going for PBs and such. Because of their nature. We have been pretty lucky so far. I think we only do one force long minigame, which is very good. And we only have to take one loss. And we are entering the third step now. I can talk a little bit about that. There are the minigames are tied up into 3 categories. Minigames can appear at stage 1, or speed 1, speed 2, and speed 3. I'm not sure if that has always been the case in WarioWare, but in this game it is because some minigames are just far too difficult platforming-wise to do without that. Faster, or some are very possible to do slower. And this, by the way, has far more. These also have far more stages than normal stages, but not far more. But normal minigames stops at 15. These are stopping at
Clear course.
different levels. And now we get to another Mario platforming level, and I'm really happy I don't have to be 9 volts in this course. I'm really happy 9 volts not the one who has to do this.
Yeah, no, as I recall, and I know it's more for the endless modes as opposed to the first time through each character's place, but what it usually does, and this I think is consistent across all games, is it'll do speed up, which makes you have to do the minigame faster, and then level up, which adds additional complexity.
Yeah, that's exactly what they do, and that's the level 3 for that boss fight.
Wouldn't know it from looking at how easily you cleared it.
Yeah, it's very easy with the flying characters, and that's really how I teach the characters as well. Like, the flying characters are pretty much all of them are top tier. They are there aren't any minigames that should be a problem until you reach 75 points and the speed starts to get really high. In the endless mode, you shouldn't have any problems with the flying characters ever before that point, because they are just so good. And then there are jumping characters, and then I put gimmick characters like 9 volt and 18 volt and Cat and Anna, where characters are really weird how they work. Cat and Anna has to jump, and that is also a little bit of a problem. It's not as much of a problem actually as having to go left, having to constantly go forward. That is probably the biggest gimmick a character has. That is an annoyance. And here comes the cutscene. This is also a really good cutscene because it actually tells a story. This has some real Saturday morning cartoon feel to it.
One of the other touches I love is that while there is the backbone, the flat cartoony art style, they add in so many things. You have this sort of early CG 3D, but also kind of papercraft that they keep going back to in this game. It's kind of meant to represent the viruses. There's all sorts of fun touches like that in every one of these games. Yeah,
the art style of this game is wonderful. You can really tell that they had fun making the minigames, as some minigames just have such wacky art styles. I don't think we have seen one of the more interesting ones yet, but there are some really interesting art styles in some minigames that are just really interesting. But yeah, like it feels like each micro game is like an individual game, and they really get that feel. And I know that's what they. Oh god, me, yes, we got that. That's a really hard frame move to get with that character. But yeah, and here it's like drawn background. It's like someone has drawn with that pencil.
Flip.
And here's like a painting. Like the art style is like so different for everything. It definitely feels like different games, each and every single minigame, and that is kind of the idea, as Wario is marketing his game as like a game collection, kind of like Action 52, but
Look closely.
I don't know how it's good.
I was wondering where that statement was going.
Yeah,
Kind of like Action 52 is not a way to sell people on playing your game.
But better. But good, I should say. But the minigame's like super short instead. But that's fine.
Skies.
Yeah, that's kind of how Wario is like marketing his game as that kind of game collection.
Stop.
I am, however, a little bit concerned about how. Oh no, did I just lose this minigame? Yeah, I did. I couldn't shoot that down there. I had to shoot the bird before I went up. Well, that happens.
Cross.
But yeah, this game is like in universe, in canon, is like sold as a game collection. So it makes sense that, and like each course is the levels each character has been working on themselves. Like all of these levels, like made by Kat and Anna, for example.
Feed.
Which is also kind of reflected in the art styles from course to course. That's like the in-game. Okay, here we go. This is a very good time to read any plugins you have for the marathon,
Sure.
as I have to focus really hard on this.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'll go a little different this time, and I'll give you a tease of what runs we still have remaining in the 4.5 hours left of the marathon. They are all looking to be some really good stuff. Stuff of different platforms, different lengths. Of course, next is Firesplitter again, running Bleed 2, which you talked about a little bit earlier. Fast paced. Also, it's going to be more up-tempo action, but still very fast-paced, motion-based, and apparently also a semi-randomized, because it's an endless mode run. And then we have a Dark Souls 3 run, any percent glitchless race between 3 different players. Saga, Denny-san GB, Sigbra, and Hemlock's Virtue. And then Reclesis is going to give us a 2-pack of games, Saga Frontier, and another Resident Evil run, because we love those around here. And I believe we'll be joined by a special guest on that run. Then DB Cade showing off a favorite, One Piece Grand Battle 3. And a fun, short and sweet run from Crazy Tone Dog called Escape from Naraka to close out the event. And, if you're the kind of person who loves to watch games that you may not have heard of, as part of your marathons, I'd highly recommend sticking around for that one if you can make it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, yeah, now we come to Jimmy T's course, which is Sports Theme. This is another course I think is a huge fan favorite.
Good grief.
And this is where we are gonna come to the most difficult boss fight, where I am gonna try to do a real difficult strat. If I fail a strat in this boss fight, I am gonna go for the safe strat, because this boss fight is pretty difficult. First, we have to get through this, and this is also a little bit nasty. Gonna see if we get good. We get an early push on the button. Sometimes you can like miss that button for several seconds before you hit it, because it's pretty precise how you have to hit it.
Let's dance.
But yeah, one thing I really like about this game, beside the cutscenes, is the characters themselves. Like, the characters are like really colorful from a personality perspective, and like all sorts of like characters are like all sorts like personalities are like represented among the characters. I like Wario was like Wario, you know, and we have Mona, who's like really responsible, and then we have
Oh yeah!
Jimmy T, who's like, I don't know what to say he is. He's like a disco dude, but he's like kinda also a Yock archetype, if that makes sense. An athlete.
Yeah, something in the range. I mean, this presentation is very much a Richard Simmons.
Yeah, this is Richard Simmons, yeah. But he's like always like, yeah, it's like so varied kind of characters that I really like that.
Yeah.
Because-
Jimmy T likes to move and groove, so of course he'd be here.
Yeah. And that's something I really, really like, at the character cast is like, it's like that. Like there's like characters that everyone can like instead of like having a cast that's like full of very, very personality-wise similar characters. Which I think wouldn't work for a game like this.
Sure.
In
Yeah.
some games
and,
like make sense that cast is like kinda similar in personality. But like in this
Right.
game it wouldn't work at all, so I'm really liking that they actually have this kind of different cast. Because
Yeah,
a
and, you
lot
know,
of
and-
the Well,
So I was just gonna say that everything about what the characters like, what they play like in the game, they're all just they're very clearly differentiated, which just lets you kind of put onto them what you like. But it's not like
Yeah.
you're learning the characters' likes and dislikes and feelings, but
Yeah.
it's every
mean-
character has a very different vibe and presentation.
I mean, there is that in this game too.
That's true.
There is
good point.
actually like a gift system in this game where you give the characters gifts, and each
Oh, that's
character is,
right.
like, yeah, and each character likes different stuff, and you kind of have to learn what each character likes and dislikes,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to like figure out what they would dislike or dislike.
Keep it up.
Yeah, and it's funny now that I think of it. There was also the secret phone call numbers in
Yeah.
WarioWare Gold. You could call and like get more information about talk
Yeah.
to some of the characters.
Yeah,
Knockdown.
it's really interesting actually. Oh no, there we go. I don't want to lose too many lives here because I don't want to get game over if I fail the mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
Not that the game over loses too much time in this game, in this category, because we get like restart for what is like 100 points.
Train.
Like this game is really free to win first time because it's like a game made for the family.
Spin.
Like some of the mini games are pretty difficult, so yeah, they put in some knee room for that, and then we have a high. They put in like some weight, some room for that, some very much room for error in case people want, in case they are struggling to beat the game. Because I remember like that one problem with like earlier WarioWare games were that some courses were like very difficult for kids to beat.
Mm-hmm.
They would like be real difficult to like see the entire game. But here we come to this part. This is real difficult.
Climb.
So we can climb up here. Normally this is not too difficult, but the strats we gotta do is very difficult. Come on. No.
Yeah.
There we go. That was a little slow, but that's the trick of it. We are keeping to the side because then we have to climb less rocks. If we go middle, we actually have to climb more rocks, and that loses a lot of time when we have to play as.
Ah, and I
Play
saw
as
you
the
were mostly
character.
manipulating just two of the limbs.
Yep, exactly. It's to avoid having to do more. As if we're going middle, we have to maneuver more limbs, and that loses a lot of time. And we can't stretch up as far each go. But the problem with that
Yeah.
strategy is if you stretch too far or are too slow, the climber will lose the stamina and drop. That strategy is basically only viable with that character, but it's also like only good, like only a requirement for that character to get a good run because of his mechanic that he's dashing. So they picked like a real difficult character for that, and here comes Ashley. Ashley is probably my favorite character in this game.
It's a fine choice.
Yeah, he is such an adorable character.
She's also generally pretty fun to play too.
Yeah, he is. He is the by far best character in this game. Especially if you are doing endless.
Let's begin.
In speedrunning, he has a flaw in that she's flying a little slow. But that is a very slight flaw, and if she was a character who I could pick without losing menuing time, I would always pick her.
Sure.
Because she is just so much better than every other character. Like, it's not even a competition, because she can fly and she can shoot in all directions. She's the only character who has those two properties. So she's like the only character who has like no direct weakness.
Dinner time.
It's kind of bad design, honestly, because from a balance perspective at least, because like we have characters that are like extremely bad, and we have like Ashley's things but with a lot of disadvantages to them, and then we have Ashley who has like everything without having any single disadvantage. Because when I said her flying is slow, I'm not thinking she's slower at flying than other flying characters. It's just that like she's a little slower than like some the normal flying characters, but like it's not significant enough where it will matter like any micro games. It's like only one min game where it matters in the entire game. There's one point in the entire game it matters that she's a slow flyer. Other than that, like she's perfect for everything. And that is a little bit of a balancing problem I feel in this game, but I understand at the same time that it's impossible to add many characters to a game and having them all be balanced. But like it's such a like I don't know how to put it, like it's such a huge like what were they thinking moment where they're like, wait a minute.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
But
Wait,
you know,
I mean-
on the other hand, their aim is to give you variety and different characters to play.
Exactly. Not for them to be competitively balanced or something.
Right.
And there is actually in the Wario Cup where that is like the online mode. There is actually a point balancing depending on how difficult the character is deemed to be.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so the bad characters are getting a point bonus like 18 volt and 9 volt and characters like that. They get like a point bonus if you pick them, so you get higher scores by picking those characters. Which is the only part where like where you are like online competing against people.
Mm-hmm.
So those characters are not like unusable because of that. They might actually be better because they are more difficult to play because they get more score from that. So yeah, I think they did that because they realized they couldn't like do the balancing well in a game like this. Because this is like there's this, as I said earlier, like it's impossible to try to balance that many different characters we want to feel different.
Right.
Juice.
Time to make some juice.
This is not good. It's a really sketchy start. The reason why I say this is a sketchy start is because we want the middle one to always be full, because the middle one is the one we are gonna use for most part.
That's true.
Because the final one is always in the middle. It's a really slow minigame. Here comes the final one, and then we are. We always want the middle one to be full. On the next course we gotta get to Orbulon. And yeah, that one is gonna have a boss fight that is very long. It's probably the longest boss fight in the entire game, honestly. But sadly there isn't too much happening. You'll all understand what I mean when we get to it. But yeah, Ashley is extremely good in this game. She is by far the best character if you want to get high win streaks. And Orbulon is arguably the second best character. It is between Orbulon and Mike, who is the second best character. And that's because of Orbulon's little gimmick in how his attack works, which you'll see now. He sucks up things below him. And that can be used to do some cheaty stuff on some micro games. That is relevant for some micro games. And he also has like a lot of range on his beam, and the beam is like always shooting. So he can't like miss stuff either. So yeah, he's like... The only flaw with him compared to Mike is that he shoots down instead of up. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of stuff in this game is up and down. Like I shoot them up.
Right. So if you need to move it up, you need to use
Yeah.
the craft itself as
Yeah.
opposed to down. Yeah.
And that can be a problem that you can only shoot down. Because if things are up, it's better to be down and shoot up. Because it's faster. So yeah, it can be a problem. It's rarely a problem, but there are some minigames where it becomes a problem. But likewise, there are some minigames where the fact that Orbulon can suck things up is such a huge advantage that it like outweighs that. So it's a very close call between Orbulon and Mike, who is the second best character, generally speaking. There is another character who, like, early on in the game, who we're soon gonna see, who was, like, speculated early on in the game to be the most broken character in the game. But it was quickly realized that she actually isn't. She's, like... She's, like, pretty much middle of the pack, because there are so many games she's just horrible at. But we'll talk more about that when we get to that point. So I can talk a little bit about what makes a character good in this game, because that is interesting. What is important in this game is actually for a character to be considered good is consistency. And how many minigames you are good and consistent at. Like, it doesn't matter if you are the best character in the world at like a couple of minigames if you are terrible at some minigames. Because the WarioWare games are like built in that you are, like, the main game mode is that you are trying to survive for as long as possible. Then you want characters who can like win every minigame in the pack quite easily. So just being good at a couple of minigames in the pack doesn't make you a good character. You have to be good at like everything. Beautiful. Get a little thumbs up there.
Take a peek. What's there?
For speedrunning, it's basically which characters are fastest to pick for menuing for this category, because
Strum.
the only part in speedrunning where you lose large amount of time is on the boss fights, and the boss fights are like decided which characters you get. So it doesn't really matter which characters we pick.
Nice. Perfect. Oh yeah. Getting faster.
Well, it doesn't matter for frame rate, but like it doesn't matter much enough to... Oh, that means it's not good. It's a slow minigame. It does seem pretty fast, but it's actually a long minigame. It's one of those minigames that I didn't...
Excavate one.
Until I actually looked it up, I thought it was a fast minigame, but then when I looked it up, it was actually a slow minigame when I looked at the fuse. Because it doesn't feel that slow, but like it is slow. Because it takes like a second of actual gameplay, but I have to like watch the ninja hide.
Find the light.
There we go. And here we come to the longest boss fight in the entire game. This is a really long boss fight we have ahead of us, and that is, we are gonna raise and lower the bridge. To make boats and cars pass.
You heard it here, folks.
Yeah.
Operating the toll booth and the drawbridge is the hardest boss battle.
Yeah, no, not really. This is like the easiest boss battle.
Sorry,
It's-
the longest.
Yeah, the longest.
Fair.
This is by far the easiest boss battle. It's so easy that I failed it because I kinda
Stop paying
sometimes-
attention.
Yeah, I stopped
Sure.
paying attention. I kinda almost doze off during this because like so extremely dull, to be honest. Like there are these long sections where you have to wait and you are like, yeah, it's even with the worst characters imaginable for this is not difficult. Not even on highest complexity, highest speed imaginable, this is difficult. Like it's just too slow to be difficult. This section is a little bit difficult as you have to like lower the bridge pretty soon after that. But yeah. I think that was the best pattern, by the way, because there's some RNG here too. I think that's the pattern that saves like 2 seconds. because there's only gonna be one car passing by now. With other paths, there are 2 cars passing by the end that loses a little bit of time. But yeah, we beat it, and we got some fireworks to celebrate it. That is probably my least favorite part of the run, because it's just so unbelievably long. It's like a minigame that's like far longer than it deserves to be. It feels like a little bit of like the minigame from WarioWare Touch, when you are like supposed to lead people to the bathrooms. It feels like that one, but like a lot slower.
I remember
Because
that.
that one was fun, because it was actually like fast paced and you had to like pay attention. But like this one, it was just like so slowly paced. And here comes the final character we're gonna unlock in this category. And that is gonna be 5V. It's popping up angry because 9V is not at home.
5V.
He is also a character I really like. Both to play, but also as a character. She's like really nice in my opinion. And her mechanic
Unless you give her a reason not to be.
yeah. And her mechanics that she floats around and she pops up. Early on when this game was released, people were like thinking she was the most broken character in the game. Like, I think it was like a pretty generally widespread opinion she was like the best character in the game. And I think we got to see some opportunities why that is. Yeah, here we see, for example. She can just pop around wherever she wants, she can dodge anything and do anything. On anything that requires platforming, she can just teleport to the end. So people thought she was broken early on. However, now we come into the thing I talked about before with that it doesn't matter how good a character is if they aren't good at like most minigames in the pack. And while she is broken on some minigames, I would even argue a lot of minigames. I would like even argue she's like broken on like 60 to 75% of the minigames. The other minigames she's not broken at, she is unbelievably bad at.
Sure.
She's either like she's either the best character at the minigame or the worst character at the minigame. And that doesn't
games where you need to
kinda-
like push something repeatedly,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah, and that's kinda not how you are a good character in this game.
Sure.
As I mentioned earlier, like consistency is the key here. It doesn't matter like how. What matters is that your character is good enough to beat the minigame, which are characters who like are at pretty much everything. And then here, for example, this is good. We push it a little bit. You can actually push that way too hard if you are too close with her. That is like one of the minigames she's really bad at, because as the target gets smaller, you basically only have time for one push. So you have to like be very precise with the push. So yeah, she has a lot of those minigames where she's like just too bad, and that's a shame. But the minigame she's good at, she is unbelievably good at. You can't fail several minigames with her because she's too good.
Clear.
And this boss fight is... The boss fight we get see is one such minigame where she is extremely good.
Feed. Launch. Find.
But yeah, it was very common that people thought that she was the most broken character early on because of the fact that she is really good at those forces. I won't lose her on purpose because possibly get thick and thin by losing on purpose. See here, for example, she can just fly by. There are so many minigames with 5V that are just super free and you don't have to worry about anything, but then there are the minigames she is bad at. And here comes the boss fight.
So bringing her along just increases the amount of RNG in your run by a lot.
Yeah, pretty much, because if you get a bad minigame, it can be... When she's good, she's good. When she's bad, she is really bad.
Juice.
So this is a use minigame again, but this time it's more complex. So how do you make this more complex? Well, there are the bees which are killing you if you touch them. Which I don't think is gonna be a problem as we play as 5V. The key here is to try to prevent the furthest left collar from being full, but at the same time keeping the furthest right one full, because at the end that's gonna happen. Boop. And there we go.
Very nice.
Yeah, as you can see, like, she can entirely ignore the B mechanic, which is super useful. The B is actually quite scary with characters who has to actually go from barrel to barrel, which she doesn't have to. She can just teleport to the barrels. I don't know how many rounds I've had die in New Game Plus due to a character dying to the B there. And now we're gonna go to the final split. Which is anything goes. We are gonna fight off against the... the final game bug. And this is gonna be worst game, and here we're gonna pick characters. We're gonna pick different characters here, and it's not a coincidence which characters we pick here actually. It's very thought through. We are picking the 5 characters who are the fastest at the boss fight of the ones we have. Because this is the only course in the entire run where you are not having to play as a starter character on the boss fight. Therefore, it does actually matter a lot here which characters you pick. For example, getting 18 volt on the boss course here is very, very bad. It loses like about 40 seconds. So we can't pick 18 volt here, which we normally do. And here comes the big bad WarioWare. And this course called Anything Goes, and that goes for this course a lot. Like, we're gonna have a lot of nasty little surprise in this course.
Left.
And the minigames in this course are also, generally speaking, a lot more difficult than previous ones.
Win.
Wario's RNG is here to ruin your run.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Unlock.
But yeah, the courses are like, okay, that's not a difficult course, but yeah, the courses are, generally speaking, a little more difficult than normal in this one.
Match.
Beautiful.
Pull.
Like, I think this course has some of the hardest minigames in all of WarioWare history.
Collect.
At least the stage 1s. The stage 2 and stage 3s are actually not that difficult, but the stage 1s are difficult.
Tie.
Like, okay, stage 2 and stage 3 are more difficult, like, for being stage 1s, these are difficult.
Defeat.
If that makes sense. Because normally stage 1s are like pretty free, and stage 2 is a little more difficult, stage 3 is like very difficult. The difficulty increase is not that fast. This is actually surprisingly easy to get high scores in,
Transport.
but to beat it's more difficult.
Yeah, it's once you're used to it. It's asking you to do things you might not be expecting from how you've played the game so far.
Yeah. For example, we saw earlier when we had to dodge during the animation screen and we had to defeat some stuff. Like the boss fighting back during transition screens, which is catching you off guard when you play this game for the first time. And the dodging thing is actually getting really difficult at stage 3 when it like covers off the screen. And here we go, get another dodge.
Unstick.
And here we go. Let's hope we get a good character for the boss course, because the boss course is important.
Straighten up.
Beautiful. And here goes the boss course, and we get to play as WarioWare, it's good. Wario has a slow flying speed, but Wario can dash forward, which is really, really fast.
Chase.
Wario's ability to do this one is like really, really good for platforming sections. Well, platform, flying sections I could add. Because, you know, he's flying and not like doing platform jumping.
Right.
Because it's Wario's game obviously gave himself a jetpack, so he becomes a really, really good character. Wario wouldn't make himself a bad character in his own game now, would he?
I mean, you know, maybe once just to feel what it was like, but then
Yeah.
he'd turn out to have extra powers.
Yeah.
Although he did get himself stuck riding out of a volcano on a toilet. So
Yep.
stranger things have happened.
Yep. So we are closing up to time. But before that, we are gonna have to finish off the boss here. There is a final part of this boss fight, which is that we're gonna fly into the nose. I gotta think time with this time. Gonna be time when we enter the nose, and it's time. There we go.
GG's.
Yeah, thanks. Filling up the nose so the boss explodes. And there comes the final boss out. Gonna skip the dialogue here so we get to watch the ending. If we have time for that.
Well, first, I can let you know that your time was approximately 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 25 seconds.
Pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that time.
Very good.
But yeah, we gotta watch gotta keep this. This dialogue is also good, but like the animation is better at the end. Because it explains the story a little bit. Here is the Supreme Developer, who is
What? Oh,
looking an awful lot like Wario. And here we go. Let's get out of here. And here's the final. Here's the final cutscene
we're back.
for this category. That is.
Where did all those bugs come from?
Yeah, where did they come from?
Well.
And
And that's why programmers get angry at you when you don't sanitize your code.
yep, exactly. They are quite angry, actually.
Bad Wario!
Yep, bad Wario.
Well, Firesplitter, you're up again next, and we're also playing another game on Switch. Are you? Do you just need to back out to the dashboard? Are you ready for that part?
Oh, I'm just about to dash out through the dashboard. There was an incentive for that, right? And was it met?
Let me double check on that. I don't have that information right here.
Can I change
Turn
the
on
game?
hitboxes, right?
Yeah.